everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fire Up. Are we fired up tonight or what?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
So I'm going to first come out in the beginning and say, because I have to say R.I.P. Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball. I'm not going to bring it into a much of a topic tonight because I am going to say that we are going to dedicate a show on Monday night, Eric Katz and myself at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do an episode of Fire Up Wisconsin, and it's solely going to be on Mr. Uecker, so Bob Uecker. So if any of you want to say anything now, go right ahead. I'm going to reserve mine for Monday because this loss is one of the biggest losses I think the state of Wisconsin and the Milwaukee Brewers have had ever.
Yeah, and Candy, I know, and that's why I sent you a note earlier today with the sad news. And again, Scott and I had the privilege of hearing the great Ernie Harwell. Ralph, you've had Bob Prince. There's been great announcers.
Yes.
All these guys were all part of the fabric of the city, or like you said, Candy, even the state.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yes.
I remember him because he came to Tiger Stadium to call a game in 1976 when Mark the Bird Fitterich was captivating the baseball world in 76. And I believe it was Uecker with Bob Prince that were doing that game. It was called Monday Night Baseball. And ABC brought them in to do the Yankees-Tigers game, which turned into a memorable one back in 1976 on this Monday night game that the Tigers ended up beating the Yankees. But Uecker was part of that team that day. I'm pretty darn sure, 99% sure. But anyways, what a great career. What a great man. That's all I'm going to say is rest in peace. You captivated millions and millions of people.
Yes. Hello, Joshua. What's going on? Right now, we're talking about the iconic broadcaster that passed away today. He was born in Milwaukee. He started his playing career in Milwaukee, and then once his playing career was done, he moved into broadcasting, and he was on the air for 54 years in Milwaukee. And these days, I don't care who you are, you don't stay in one job that long, much less a career that long. So kudos to him, but rest in peace. You will definitely be missed. So, Tarasenko will not go to the Panthers at the deadline. Pass that along to Scotty. The Red Wings power play is lethal. You are correct.
Tonight it is, at least.
If you guys don't know, the Detroit Red Wings are down here in South Florida playing the Florida Panthers, and the Red Wings have found a newfound youth, I would say, or energy with once they hired this new coach, and they've improved their games and their skills. And yes, their power play has been great. So Bobrovsky has been playing brutal. So
that's good. That's a good thing.
Yes. But hockey is normally not this show. Hockey is normally on the South on Sports Exchange. Typically would precede this show on Thursday nights, but one of the guests, Mr. Peterman, he is actually at the game. So that's why there was not a Sports Exchange tonight talking about hockey. So we are here. We're going to talk some NFL because there is some playoffs games that happened last week. There's some playoff games this week. And let's just talk some NFL. So one of the things that kind of surprised me, and I don't know why, but GM Gutekunst from the Packers said, we need to ramp up our sense of urgency. I'm sorry, is not your goal every year to go to the Super Bowl? What do you mean all of a sudden now you got to ramp up your sense of I get players have a short life. But isn't that your ultimate goal every year is to go to the Super Bowl? Like, why all of a sudden now? Like, your sense of urgency should be every year because that's what your job, that's what you're paid to do. So that kind of like the wording that he used, I guess, threw me because I'm like, what? Isn't that every team's goal every single year at the start of the year? So, you guys, thoughts on the games that happened this past weekend? Pensman, you can start. Whichever game you want to talk about.
Well, it used to be every team's goal to make the Super Bowl, but as of lately, the Steelers only care about all they care about is winning the season and then want it done in the playoffs. So I don't know where they transition their mindset to the Super Bowl. So I don't know what a Super Bowl feels like anymore. So, but I'm ready for the Rams and Eagles game. I hope the Rams win. I was surprised about the Commanders beating the Buccaneers. I'm surprised about that. I thought the Buccaneers were going to come back and win that game. Baker Mayfield looked good, but Jaden Daniels, what can you say about Jaden Daniels? He's been on fire. He knows how to read the defense ever since preseason, basically. And that's all I got.
Ralph, how about you?
Yeah, I thought the Washington-Tampa game, I agree with Pensman, was a really good football game. Jaden Daniels, and the reason he's good is because he has a good offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, who is very good at working with quarterbacks. In college, he was good as an assistant coach, horrible head coach in the NFL. I think down the road, with a little bit more experience, I think he could become a head coach again somewhere. When he was with the Cardinals, he did a few things with Kyler Murray, but the team as a whole stunk. And, I think the one year they went to the playoffs, but that was it. After that, they stunk up the joint. But Cliff Kingsbury's resurrected his coaching career by taking Jalen Daniels under his wing and teaching him what he needs to know. And Todd Bowles in that game made some real boneheaded coaching mistakes in that game. He's, Peter Blake and I talked about this last night. He's kind of like another Mike Tomlin. He's been in this game for so long. This is his second coaching stint. Mike Tomlin's been in it for 18 years, and he still don't know how to do clock management. They make boneheaded decisions and things like that. And I just think that some of the decisions that he made in that game were horrible. The one game that I was really surprised about was the Vikings-Rams game. I thought the Vikings were going to go down there and kick the Rams' tails in, but it turns out that they laid an egg, and the Rams ended up beating them. And good for the Rams. I'm glad that they were able to move on, but I wanted Minnesota in that game, and it just didn't work out that way. So, and I don't want to talk about the Steelers-Ravens game.
Joshua, the Dolphins are not going to the Super Bowl this year. They they are sitting at home collecting their money, and they're
There's
starting
always
their off season.
There's always Madden. There's always Madden 25.
Yeah.
Mr. George, tell
Well,
us.
I don't know about a single game, but I mean, they were all very interesting. They all had different outcomes. I think that the one that probably intrigued me the most, also piggyback on what you said, Ralph, the Vikings going and laying an egg in Arizona, as we all know, because of the devastating fires in LA, they moved the game to Arizona. And the Cardinals, by the way, did a marvelous job in transforming that into a home game for the Rams. But listen to this. Sam Darnold, okay, Minnesota. I know you don't want to hear this, but you were frauds. You were frauds. You lost both games to Detroit. You lost this playoff game. You laid an egg. Sam Darnold, I don't know where your head was the last couple of weeks, including the loss at Ford Field in Detroit on the final game of the season, and then follow that up with a laying a what in LA or
Yes.
in Arizona. Matthew Stafford has got a young team. Watch out for the Rams. The two teams, and obviously the Lions are going to play this weekend. Washington. This team has a lot of spunk going for it, and so does LA. They got a lot of young, aggressive guys on defense. And of course, the Rams are going to be facing a tough challenge against the Eagles. But I'm looking forward. But we'll talk more about the next games coming up, I'm sure, Candy. But here's another one for you. I did not think that Buffalo was going to manhandle like they did Denver. I thought that was going to be a closer game. Of course, Buffalo won 31-7. And you don't want to talk about Pittsburgh, but I will. I'm very disappointed in that outcome. Baltimore, it was only 2 touchdown victory, but boy, it seemed like more than that. And I don't blame you for being angry with your head coach. It seems like, we had the situation with Jim Caldwell here in Detroit and with Wayne Fonts. Oh, yeah, they made the playoffs. Oh, yeah, that was a good year. Well, that doesn't cut it in the NFL, as we know it, guys. It doesn't cut it. And Pittsburgh's got a lot of soul searching to do. The Steelers do, but
There's
I'll
big
stop.
changes.
I'll stop right there for now, Candy. Looking back at last week's action.
Well, and I'm going to say somehow we still don't have it right with the refs, and instant replay, we use it sometimes, we don't use it sometimes. I honestly do not know how they could call that Keyshawn Nixon did not recover that first punt and get it back. I understand he fumbled, and I understand, but there's pictures that show he clearly recovered that football, but yet they gave it to Philadelphia. Okay, fine. I'm not saying that's the reason the Packers lost, but when you have a young team in the playoffs, as the Packers are one of the youngest teams, and you have such a blow on the first play like that to your like you're here, you're thinking, oh, we're gonna get the ball, we're gonna start going to work, and then all of a sudden that blow where, oh no, he fumbles, and we thought we recovered, but in the same breath, I don't understand why Matt LaFleur did not throw out a challenge flag. If we honestly thought that Keyshawn Nixon, and so maybe he didn't, but I, as a player, if I were Nixon, I would have gone up to Matt LaFleur and said, I recovered that football. I am 100% sure. And then he should have challenged, because that first play, I think, dictated the whole rest of the game. And I understand. I'm not saying the Packers would have won that game. I'm not.
They could have. They
Lefty,
could have. That was a key factor.
but that was a key factor, I believe, that set the tone for the rest of the games.
Yeah, right.
And let's face it, we were on the third receiver, the third left tackle. I mean, we got injured, and when you're a young team and you get injured and you don't have a lot of veteran presence to come in there, we're not a Detroit. And the other thing is that most of those happened in that one game. So there isn't going and getting other players. You have to man up with the team that you have. So I was disappointed, obviously, because I wanted my Packers to go on. Surprised that the Commanders are doing as well as they are. Yes, but good for them. Like, that tells you that rookies can do it. So, Caleb, did you look and notice what's happening? Because you had a good team around you. Yes, you didn't have a good coach. I'll give you that. But you had a team around you, and you were projected to do way better than you did. And we'll transition now, because I'm talking about Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams came out and said that he thinks his coach, the head coach for the Bears that they hire, should be offensive minded. A rookie quarterback is coming out and saying who he thinks should coach him. What are your thoughts, guys? I mean, normally you have a quarterback's coach, you have an OC, and then you have a head coach. So what are your thoughts? And we'll start, George, we'll start with you this time. What do you think about the quarterback saying who his next head coach should be?
I mean, he had a decent start, but come on, 5-12. The Bears were a joke this year again. No, it's like the old theory about who's running the asylum here. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
if you've got a favorite candidate, even if you do, and you want to promote somebody, or there's somebody that you really like from your past that you worked with, a coach, I mean, you can do that, but do it a private way. And I don't mean going above, like you just said, Candy, the hierarchy. Quarterback, yes, there's a quarterback's coach, then there's an offensive coordinator, then there's a head coach. But for you to come out there in your first year, your first real off season with your team right now, is what's going on over there in Chicago. I mean, the things are just, crumbling left and right. I think that Williams has got a lot on his mind. He's very upset, I'm sure, the way this season ended for him and the Bears. But come on, now there's a hierarchy, like you said, and not only that, who made you an expert on what we need right now? Obviously the team needs help everywhere you look, or the offense and defensively and special teams. But yeah, I was caught a little bit off guard, Candy. I'm glad you brought that up. Caleb Williams could talk all he wants, but he could have had a better season too than he did. But all that being said, I'm anxious to know what the rest of the guys think.
Ralph, your thoughts?
Well, if it was me and I was the ownership and Caleb Williams came to me, I'd trade him tomorrow. Because you know what? This is our team, not yours. Our. You're just a player here. It's just like in any corporation. You're just an employee. Okay? You're somebody who, you're being paid a lot of money by us. And we call the shots here. Maybe we haven't done a great job of it, which, of course, the Bears have not. How the mighty have fallen like the Steelers a little bit, okay? You see, the Bears at one time had a great organization, and they've fallen over the years. But you know what? For him to do that, that's unacceptable because if it was me, I'd keep my mouth shut and wait and see what they were going to do to improve the team. And then maybe down the road in a year or two, if the team's not improved, maybe say something. But right now, like Candy said, you're a rookie quarterback. And like George reiterated, how in the heck are you going to go and tell me what to do? I want to say this. Before the Steelers hired Mike Tomlin, a whole bunch of players went to lobby for Ken Wisenhunt, Russ Grimm. And you know what Art II said? We're going to hire the coach we want, not what you want. So you see what I'm getting at? It's the same. It should be the same concept with all these teams instead of kissing the butt of all these athletes at times. But that's the way I look at it.
Pensman, your thoughts?
On a point, I agree with Ralph, but he is an employee. You don't go to your employer. But Ralph, what you don't understand is you have an opinion. So that's why I'm saying he could have been, can I make a suggestion? You don't go into your boss's office and demand something. You go in and be like, can I make a suggestion? The way Caleb said it was wrong. Caleb should have said, can I make a suggestion? Can I have to help me perform better on the field? Can you give me this kind of coach? You don't go in your boss's office and be like, yo, this is what I need. Period. So
what he did, and this is quoting him, selfishly, I want an offensive minded guy so I can build with him and be with that coach for the next 19, 17, 15 years. So I can also learn and grow and things like that from him and what he's seen and what he's gone through with other QBs or been around. Well, isn't that more what your quarterback, like you really, don't get me wrong, you work with the head coach, but you really work with your quarterback's coach first and foremost. Now,
an offensive coordinator.
An offensive coordinator,
yeah, right.
correct. But to come out and say, I mean, there are some really good defensive head coaches out there. Why can't you? I mean, and yeah, Jay, I agree. It's really weird to say 19, 17, 15 years. That's what I'm quoting, what he is quoted.
Right. It is weird to say it that way. And he's immature,
He's an oddball. He's counting an odd number of years. No,
Caleb has loose screws in his head.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, I know Ralph laughed right away when Candy read that. Me too, because we all know longevity of the coaching staff. Come on, this is the NFL.
It's the NFL, yeah.
Obviously, an exception is if
you're right, George. You were so right on that one.
Yeah. He can try all he wants, but Belichick did a miracle working in New England. I mean, that guy stayed forever. Shula stayed forever, whatever. But I agree. I mean, there's a way to do it. Like you said, Pensman, you go in there and you say, I got a suggestion. I mean, let me just get this off my mind.
Right.
Luke Getsy was his offensive coordinator at the beginning of the season. And something, coaches like Luke Getsy who get away from the flock. And what I mean by that was he come from the tree of Holmgren, I believe, or McCarthy or whatever. He came from that tree. Okay. And when you get off the tree and you try to go on your own and you don't, and you're not doing it right. So Luke Getsy, maybe he's a good quarterbacks coach, but a horrible offensive coordinator. Okay, and let me give you an example of this. The WWE at one time with Vince McMahon, and I'm going to use this example. He had a guy working for him named Vince Russo. And Vince Russo was good when he was with the WWE. When he went to WCW in the 90s and tried to fix WCW because it was falling apart, he couldn't do it by himself because he didn't have Vince McMahon to go to and say, help me, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Getsy's the same way. And some of these coaches that fall off the tree, like the Belichick tree, some of these coaches that haven't made it as a head coach, they don't have Big Bill to go to anymore. You see what I'm saying? And that was Luke Getsy's situation there. And I feel bad for the guy because he's a local guy from Pittsburgh, and he went to Pitt and everything else, And I followed his career throughout the years, so it's just sad.
Yeah, I think we hit the nail. Caleb D. Williams.
Steve, yeah.
And we're all going to agree it's Pensman's fault.
Why not? Why not?
Pensman gets the blame for everything. I'm lacking in subscribers on my YouTube channel, and a whole bunch of people blame Pensman for it. So.
Why not? Why not?
So who do we think is going to be the next coach for the Dallas Cowboys? And I'm going to start with you, Ralph.
Oh, that's a good question. If I'm anybody, I wouldn't want to work for Jerry Jones. He had Bill Parcells down there, one of the best coaches in the NFL. Couldn't work with him. He had a few, Jimmy Johnson. He ran him out. It's just one thing after another with Jerry Jones. So, but, I don't know. Somebody like maybe a Ben Johnson, if he would take that job, which I doubt it. I think he'd stay with Detroit before he take that job. Jerry Jones may have to reach out to Jason Garrett again. I think that might be
that's going backwards.
Well, you know what? Jason Garrett had a pretty long tenure when he was with the Dallas Cowboys.
I know, but if Jerry did that, can you imagine?
Jerry's gonna have to figure something out here. I to be honest with you, Candy, I can't even tell you who, because Jerry Jones, Mike McCarthy's a good coach, and it's sad that it ended this way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my 2 cents is that I don't think it's going to be a Ben Johnson. I think Ben is leaning more towards the street talk I heard in Detroit is he had a real good interview with the Raiders, and Tom Brady wants him over there really fast, and I guess is pushing behind the scenes to have that happen as part owner. Jerry Jones is always digging his own grave, isn't he? The man is just doing too much. You've seen how they've fallen from being America's team to being like America's laughing stock team, what they are, really.
Yes. Oh, the mighty have fallen.
Yeah. And Jerry doesn't want to go out there and share power with anybody, I guess. He doesn't want a strong executive in that front office. But I don't know. And then these rumors about Belichick. Can you believe that? Supposedly he's got this out clause with the college now. And that he has a possibility to come back now and turn that money down. We'll get to you in a minute, Pensman. The other thing is, the other guy is obviously, again, from Detroit, and that's Aaron Glenn, our defensive coordinator. He's also out there interviewing with a lot of teams right now. He turned down an interview, by the way, with Robert Kraft in New England. But I'll tell you what, keep that name in there. He's got strong roots and strong ties to the state of Texas. That's where he was from. And Aaron Glenn might be willing to do it. My heart says, don't do it, Aaron. Don't go to work for that guy. But I don't know. That's one of the strongest candidates, I think. Pensman?
Aaron Glenn might take the position. The thing I was going to tell you, George, is that Bill Belichick did not sign his contract in UNC yet. So,
okay. Thank you for the update.
That's what I was going to tell you, George.
Yeah.
He did not sign his contract yet. So he might have signed, but he did not officially sign yet. He might have committed, but now that this vacancy is open still, Jerry, we'll see what happens. And I heard Deion Sanders declined, and he might be coming back. And I also heard that Jason Witten might be the coach too.
Yeah, We'll see what happens there. Yeah.
Yeah, I did
That's
not
an
hear about
interesting name.
Sanders,
I
huh?
didn't see
That's
that name out
interesting.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he declined it, and then he's thinking about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Things are crazy in Dallas.
Belichick has yet to officially sign his contract with North Carolina, which could lead to a legal dispute regarding the coach's buyout if he leaves for the pros. Belichick's buyout is $10 million if he terminates his deal before June 1, but drops to $1 million after that date. But again, he did not sign a term sheet with North Carolina.
Wow, that's got to keep the athletes there in the transfer portal and stuff like that humming down there
Yeah,
because they don't
that's
know
not
what the
right.
stability is of the coach. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Again, another one, how the mighty have fallen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To Dallas. I mean, I have heard rumors about Dion, but what I've heard is that they would have to try and trade Dak and bring both coach and son to Dallas.
Huh.
Now, can I see those two? I don't think, and I don't think Pete Carroll would want to be a coach for Jerry Jones. I don't know many that could handle him.
It would have
Could
to be the right.
Dion?
It would have to be the right situation, Candy, for him to come back to anything.
Right.
And I can't see Dion and his son going to that.
I don't like that arrangement either because when it comes to discipline and everything else connected with coach versus player kind of rapport, no, I don't like that at all. I just don't think a father and son combination in the NFL is going to work very well.
I agree. But
And Jay, I will take that right now. I would take that. We have Skylar Thompson on our team. Do you think Pittsburgh Steelers want Skylar Thompson instead of Dak Prescott? I'll take Dak Prescott any day.
Yeah, Skylar Thompson. I know what you mean.
mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, I would take Dak Prescott tonight, right now.
There was a couple people in town here that had a report out. They want to see Malik Willis coming. I'm like, get out of here. I don't want Malik Willis. Jeez.
He might be good.
Yeah, in Green Bay.
Yeah, Candy and I
Doesn't mean he'll be good here.
We all talked about it on the show here.
Stay in Green Bay because you know what? He'll do better there. He'll come here and regress.
It's gonna be interesting.
So the odds, that it's become a betting sport now. The odds are that Deion Sanders is the front runner for the Dallas job. And then they threw out Kellen Moore, Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury, Joe Brady, John Gruden, Aaron Glenn, Bill Belichick, and Jason Witten.
Kellen Moore would take that job because if he's desperate to be a head coach, he'd take that job, and he's worked there before.
Is John even allowed to coach after what happened in Oakland?
Yeah, there you go.
That's a big question.
I know they're in Las Vegas, but he coached the Oakland Raiders back in the day. But because of what happened, is he even allowed to take that position?
I think he is because I don't think there's anything that said he couldn't.
Right. I haven't heard anything to the contrary either. No.
Right.
Okay. No, I wasn't sure if he wasn't allowed or what. I wasn't sure of the whole situation.
It's very difficult to see these guys jump back once they get a taste of that television. You know what I mean? These head coaches.
Hey, look at Bill
your
Cowher.
boy Cowher, right?
Yes.
He loves it.
He said, "I'll never."
Jimmy Johnson loves that. All that money they're paying him to come on those Sunday shows.
That's right.
I mean, these coaches most of them are not going to want to go back. The ones
that want to go back, George, are the ones that got an ego for coaching all the time.
That's
true.
What
I mean? It's in their blood. They have to do it. They're bored with that job. Bill Cowher loves it, man. He even said in an interview he loves it. He'll never go back to coaching.
I'm going way back in my past with a fellow named George Allen, one of the most successful coaches in the Redskins, and George Allen did that.
How about John Madden?
Madden there's another one, John, and he left at a very young age. You're right, to go into television.
Yes,
But
How about Dick
yeah,
Vermeil? Even though he made
Yeah.
a few times back and forth, but
Dick Vermeil was
Vermeil,
there a long,
he got
long time.
burned out with the Eagles. You know,
Hank Stram left
Yeah.
the Chiefs to work with
Yeah.
Jack Buck. Yeah. Hmm.
So, if there a college coach that would be enticing to people, I think the coach from Notre Dame. I think he would be enticing to some.
Al Golden, you mean? Or you mean Marcus Freeman or Al
Marcus
Golden?
Freeman. Yep.
Freeman.
Yeah, Al Golden's been in the NFL. So
I don't think Freeman's going anywhere. I think that
No.
he's obviously going for the championship, and that's on his mind. But I don't think he's going to jump this early. I mean, leave Notre Dame this early. No.
And
James,
I
James
wonder what his
Franklin
buyout clause is there, George.
I'm sorry.
I wonder what his buyout clause is.
Yeah,
there.
see, we don't
It's
know
probably
that.
pretty
Yeah,
high.
we don't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, his stock is obviously rising really good.
Mhm.
I tell you what, he shocked me, man. I didn't think he'd make it this far with
Oh
him.
gosh, no,
I really did.
no. And I'm a fan of theirs. I have been for many, many years, but I just didn't see that kind of
No.
that kind of
Like
thing happening.
George. I think Ohio State too. Ryan Day, man, I thought he was shot and gone, man. You know.
No. Well,
And-
I think Candy's got that as one of our topics here today.
Yes.
Unless you want
Yes.
to do it now, Candy.
Go ahead.
Well,
Take us.
we're talking about the championship game. I'm just going to throw mine out there. As much as I like Notre Dame personally, I don't see them being able to do it. Ohio State's got so many weapons on offense; they are just loaded. And yeah, I think Notre Dame does play a pretty aggressive defense, but I think it'll be a close game. But I don't see the Buckeyes going down. Now the thing is, if they can hold Ohio State off the scoreboard in the first quarter or something like that, then it's anybody's game. But the way they've come out in these games, the Buckeyes, and really dominated in that early part of every game, it's amazing. I give them credit because after Michigan toasted them, I thought they were going to just be a dud when they reached the postseason. And isn't it ironic, huh? Or is all those top seeds? They're at home watching the game. You got Notre Dame and Ohio State by far in that second class of teams, the 12 that made it. I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting,
Yeah, isn't it?
but it should be a really good game. I'm going to go with the Buckeyes. I'm going to say about 28-24. It'll be a close game.
It's going to be a dogfight, I think. You know, and you got Chip Kelly versus Al Golden. That's going to be the battle right there. Al Golden is a very good defensive coordinator. He was once a head coach in college. He brought Temple back from the doldrums. He was also down in one of the Florida teams. I think it was Atlantic or International. I can't remember which one he was at. But he coached down there too. And so Al Golden and Chip Kelly, that's where the battle's going to be. And Chip Kelly's managed to resurrect his career as an offensive coordinator after a failed head coaching stint in UCLA. So, I mean, so we'll go from there on that one. Tiger
Okay.
Stripes says free agency. Sam Darnold, Jason.
No. Well, let's hold off on that, Ralph. Let's keep on the.
Yeah.
We got to hear from Candy and Pensman, of course.
Yes,
Pensman.
absolutely. But I agree with you, George. I take Ohio State in this game, but it's going to be a dogfight. That's what I think. So,
if Notre Dame contains Henderson and Notre Dame contains Jeremiah Smith, I think Notre Dame's got it. But if Henderson runs like he's been all playoffs, Notre Dame is cooked. So, but I think Notre Dame is going to make it close, but I have 35-32 score with Buckeyes winning. And Chip Kelly is not going to Dallas, Jay. I can't see that one.
No, I can't.
oh, wait a minute here. Hold on. I just got a report here. Hold on. That the Dallas Cowboys are going to interview Eric Bieniemy.
Uh,
My.
Jay, I agree that Notre Dame has had a pretty easy schedule. So I would say I think if the true Ohio State team that came off the field after the Michigan game and is possessed and is upset and pissed, I think they're going to come out strong. I think this isn't going to be as close of a game as everybody thinks. I think it's going to be more like 30, 34, 17. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a high scoring game because I think Ohio State has the offense to do it. So,
Are you saying that because of Jay saying that?
no.
Okay.
Nope. I said that even the other night. I think it's going to be Ohio State.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's just funny
They've
that Jay. It's funny that Jay put it in there.
Yes. Yes. So back to, so who do we think is going to be the next like Jags coach?
That's another good question.
Yeah,
That's a really good question.
that's a tough one to go to, man, too. But
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
talking about when I believe it was when they first talked about the interviews that Ben Johnson was going to go through here from Detroit. They did mention Jacksonville, and I believe because of Trevor Lawrence, maybe he feels possibly like he's a good guy that I can affect to turn around his career, that sort of thing. I don't know. Of course, he's got to be very tight-lipped about these interviews. Johnson has to be here in Detroit, but it's still a Florida franchise. It's still I know they do all that travel to London all the time, but it's still a good team. But they just are stuck in a rut right now. The Jacksonville Jags. I mean, they got a lot of work to do to improve that team, but I don't know who would want to go there. But I'm sure the guys, if the money's there, a lot of them will be interested. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, well, definitely George DeCons have a lot of money, but I have here they're about to interview Joe Brady and Liam Cohen. That's who they're interviewing. So
there you go.
So we'll see if Liam Cohen takes that job, the OC for Tampa, and then Joe Brady up in Buffalo. So
I heard that Pensman is going to interview on Monday.
Yeah, there you go.
If I end up in Jacksonville, then that's where I'm going to start my next career. Pack your bags. I don't know who wants to touch that. I really don't. I don't know who would go down there and deal with all that. I don't know. Whoever they get, I don't know. It's just,
and I'm seeing a report here
that's just
from the New York Post that says Robert Saleh could be interviewing for that job as well in Jackson.
Oh yeah.
So
it'll be nice and warmer than New York. So
yeah.
He doesn't have to worry about Aaron.
If he interviews for that job, he better bring a really good offensive coordinator with him to work with Lawrence.
Jay, I'm going to say he's not a bust. I think some young quarterbacks that come out of college need to have consistency in the coaching ranks above them, whether it be a quarterback coach, the OC, and the head coach. And let's face it, he has had anything but consistency. And then I also think when you have a young quarterback, you always need a good offensive line because you need to be protected. And especially transitioning from, I think, college to the pros, that you really need a good offensive line because it's a different game and it's a different speed that they play in the NFL. Could I see Saleh taking the Jacksonville? That would be interesting. Who's going to be the Jets coach?
Ralph?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with me, Ralph.
Yeah, Arthur Smith.
There we go.
I'm going to church and I'm praying, man. Arthur Smith, please take that job.
There we go. That's what I was waiting for. I was like 3, 2, 1.
Job too.
He had his interview today. We'll see.
Aaron Glenn too. I think I thought he got an interview with the Jets. Aaron Glenn also might be interested in that job, but I'm not, again, that's a tough situation there. I mean, it's never easy. We know that to coach the Jets and the Giants. And yet, there's still a lot of money there, obviously. Big city money.
And I'll
but
be
again,
scared of Rodgers.
you've got to turn that thing around somehow. Holy crap! They've only been to that one Super Bowl, right? Joe Namath. I think. I don't think they've ever been there a second time, have they? The Jets.
Okay, the Jets have asked permission to interview Brian Flores. So
There you go.
There
it's
goes
going to
my
be Aaron Glenn, Brian Flores, and Arthur Smith.
there
So
There
goes
you go.
there goes my defensive coordinator.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Ralphie just killed me.
I'll be thankful that it's not the Green Bay problem of what's Rodgers going to do. Is he going to retire? Or is he not going to retire? And how long is he going to take to make this decision? And kudos to, and let me preface this. There are bigger questions, obviously, right now. He does live in an area that is impacted by the wildfires. His house is fine right now, but there is obviously a concern because of the wildfires there around the area in the LA. I mean, our prayers go out to all the people that have lost their life and to all the firefighters that are fighting these fires, because they're still battling fires that have killed now more than 25 people and destroyed more than 12,000 structures. That's crazy when we think about that.
Yeah, it is.
I think it will be fun to watch. I'm not a New York Jets fan, but it would be fun to watch Arthur Smith head coach and Terrell Austin as defensive coordinator.
Oh, there you go.
That would be hilarious.
Better them than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
be laughing.
Pensman, you better go to church, kneel down, and pray, my friend.
You got it.
Yeah.
Jay, I agree that he right now hasn't been the clutch, and I'm not ready to say he's not a top tier quarterback. And here's the reason why. I recently saw some statistics that compare him to the first couple years of Brett Favre. And honestly, they are very similar in a lot of the categories. So I'm not ready to write him off. Remember, he's throwing to not veteran receivers. He did not have a veteran receiver like a lot of other quarterbacks. So I'm going to hold my judgment on that one. I will never say someone's a top tier quarterback if they don't have more than 4 or 5 years in the league. I think you have to have more than a couple years before you're going to call somebody a top tier. But
I would agree with that.
Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers
Yeah.
didn't take everybody up to New York, that he'll be all right.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting because one of the things that they are saying is, well,
Easily.
there's multiple different people talking in reports. There's a lot of people saying that we need to get more of a wide receiver one veteran, and there was talk that Devontae Adams is now available again, and he said he's open to coming back. But I don't know. I don't know if we need Devontae Adams. The one thing I will say is this is the first time in a long time the Packers are not in what I would say is cap hell, because they've moved on from Aaron Rodgers, so they don't have some of those
High
huge
salaries and all that. Yeah.
expiring. Right. So
Right.
they have room to do some things. So yes, J.I., thanks for that. That was a good call out. And I agree. I'm not sold on Love either, but it'll be interesting to see if they can develop him. Now, the one thing that I will say again, because I had just said previously that your coaches need to be the same. And for all of you that know or don't know, Tom Clements, the quarterback coach, the longtime quarterback coach for the Packers, retired this year. So,
Wow.
so he will have a change at quarterback coach, and we don't know who it will be yet. So that could influence how well or if Jordan Love progresses or if he regresses.
Would you
So-
guys be okay if Lovie Smith came back to coach a team that with all the vacancies?
Now, Lovey Smith's, you know,
Is he
I don't
done
think
or
so.
is he have another shot?
I heard he's coaching some kind of
Is
little
he?
league football or something somewhere. That's what I heard.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but that doesn't mean he wouldn't entertain thoughts about coming back. I mean,
No,
I mean, but he's not being mentioned, that, as far as I know, in any of these interview sessions.
No, I'm just throwing it
Yeah.
out top of my head just to make a
Sure,
topic
sure. No, I got you. Yeah. You know,
because you
he
heard
got a
Pete
bad, he got
Carroll
a
and all
bad
these.
shape. You know, it's another one that's tough to coach, the Bears. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's tough out there for the Bears and these teams that are trying to compete. I tell you what, though, I think it'd be very interesting to see Lovey back in the NFL, because I still think he's got a lot of ability. The problem is that once they leave, like we talked about the television guys, or like you says, Ralph, if he goes to a something that helps his kids or a small program or a small college, they probably will never come back. But I mean, that's tough to turn that money down. If you get interviewed by the NFL team, more likely than not, you're going to take the job. There are some exceptions to that.
yeah. And I'm not saying this to be rude or not, but he's 66 years old. I don't know if I want to be,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I'm not saying that
I
to be
get that.
ignorant or nothing.
Dick
I
Vermeil was an
understand
old
that.
one too.
What
Dick,
about our friend Candy? What are you hearing about Mike McCarthy?
Yeah.
Is he going to end up anywhere, or is he going to take a year or two off?
I had heard there was interest from the Bears in
Oh, okay.
McCarthy. And I
Uh-huh.
had heard, I think, was it the Saints as well? I think had interest. The name we haven't been throwing out. How about Ron Rivera?
Oh, there's another one. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, Ron
supposedly the
Rivera.
Jets were. Yeah, supposedly the Jets were gonna. I know. Reach out to Rivera. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. I forgot about him.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Matt Campbell, Iowa State head coach. I know there was some interest. Some people were interviewing him as well. We were talked about, college coaches. He's also one that I think is on a list that could, take. It's a possibility. I mean, there's how many coaches out there, candidates. So
there's a lot of them.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that are still out there hanging around. You got some UFL coaches that might be interested in coming back,
Yep.
so we'll see what happens. I'll tell you a name that's he's
Todd Haley
coaching with
might come back. You don't know.
with Bill O'Brien up there in Boston College, Tim Lewis. I mean, he's up there with him as defensive coordinator. So, Tim Lewis is out there. So, I mean,
Uh-huh.
So the Bears have interviewed Aaron Glenn. That interview took place on January 11th. Pete Carroll interview completed January 9th. Brian Flores is scheduled on January 16th. Arthur Smith interview so it should have been today then. Arthur Smith interview was on January 15th. Ben Johnson's was on the 11th. Mike McCarthy denied by the Cowboys, but it was completed yesterday. Thomas Brown interview confirmed, exact date unknown. Anthony Weaver completed on January 9th. Mike Kafka, January 9th. Drew Petzing, January 9th. Todd Monken, scheduled for tomorrow. David Shaw requested. Ron Rivera, interview was completed on January 12th, and Adam Stenovich requested. So they've actually interviewed quite a few. And the same with the Jaguars, it seems like.
I'd be interested to see what David Shaw would do in the NFL. That would be an interesting one right there.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see, like, how many more they have. Do they think they have somebody or not? Oh, sorry, excuse me.
They probably do. They're just not leaking it out yet.
Well, and let's face it, and I hate to say this, but there is such thing as the Rooney Rule. And to be honest with you, I think even though you may know you think you know, you have to do your due diligence, because what if you like somebody pretty good right now, but then you interview somebody else and they're just like a step above and you weren't expecting it. Because remember, coaching, especially when they're doing these kind of coaches, it's what their vision is and how well they get along as well, because they have to work together.
Yep.
And Mike Vrabel got a job like that.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
real.
Yeah.
Well, that's just
Yeah.
he's familiar with with New England, and Kraft's got a history
Oh,
with him.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying with the quick that was.
yeah.
You didn't hear any ones.
Tiger Stripes Media, if you didn't hear us in the very beginning, I want to just reiterate, we all agree prayers for Bob Euchre's family. If you are a Euchre fan or a Wisconsin fan, we are going to be doing a special edition of Fire Up Wisconsin on Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So please tune in then for that special show. If Ohio State wins, could Ryan Day go to the NFL? What do
I
you
don't
guys
think
think?
so. I don't think he'd be ready to leave yet. I mean, but
No, he's going to stay there at Ohio State.
yeah, that's what I would think. He's too young, and he's got a lot of big future at AM. Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna say I could see it though, because he's had success at Ohio State. What is there left if he wins? What else? Like Harbaugh, he went out on top. I could see Ryan Day saying, you know what? I've done all I can for Ohio State. The one thing I couldn't do is I couldn't beat Michigan, but maybe it's time to move on. A new challenge, a different challenge. I could especially see it now with NIL, that some of these people, especially if they win like the national championship or something like that they're done with college sports, with the NIL and all the transfer portal and all of that I could see it.
Yeah, that could happen. Yeah,
Never say never. I agree with that. Never say never, because he's pretty talented. But yeah, he's got that Michigan thing hanging over his neck. But the NFL's not going to care about that. I mean, if he
Nope.
wins a national title, like you said, Candy,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, somebody might go calling, but I don't know. I
I don't
still
think
agree.
so. I think he'll stay with Ohio State.
I think so too, at least for a few more years. What do you think, Pensman?
I think he's going to stay at Ohio State and beat Michigan. That's why he wants to get that monkey off his shoulder.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, huh?
And the only reason why, and don't be mad at me, George, because I watched the video on Netflix. Harbaugh wouldn't have won it if it wasn't for that Steele signing thing. Is it true or not? I saw a video on Netflix and Scallions was there. I don't know.
I don't know either. I think they're going to come down hard on Michigan. I don't know what the penalty is going to be, but they have not ruled on that yet.
Yeah,
The NCAA.
I'm just saying that Harbaugh would have not won it if it wasn't for that.
Oh, I know people feel that way. I know that.
Yeah. I'm a
So,
Michigan fan too, but I was just making
Sure.
me think a little bit.
I still think Bridgewater is the replacement OC for Ben Johnson in Detroit, which means Ben Johnson is likely headed somewhere. Candy sold me on the idea of it being the Raiders.
Don't forget, we have New Orleans too. They're looking for a coach. So I mean, and no one's bothered to even mention them.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But
again, you talk about a once proud franchise. I mean, they were in contention all those years and
With Sean Payton,
never
yes.
could win the Super Bowl. But yeah, that's a nice place to go to. But
Yeah.
you're right. There hasn't been as much focus on that opening. I don't know why.
Because there's no quarterback.
Yeah.
If you got a big
Quarterback
name,
problem.
if you get a big name quarterback, coaches will probably come running.
okay, so did we all predict the Notre Dame Ohio State game?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, so
Yes.
let's go to there's some NFL games this weekend. Let's start with Houston Texans at Kansas City. Who wins? Pensman.
Kansas City.
Ralph.
Kansas City.
George.
Kansas City Chiefs will win that game 31-21.
Okay. Next game, Washington Commanders at Detroit Lions. George, it's your hometown. They're playing in your hometown. Who's going to win?
Well, I'm not going to pick against the Lions. I'd be foolish to do that, but I do think it's going to be a closer game than the Lions uh, planned. I shouldn't say planned. That's not really the right word, but I mean this team is still playing really good football right now. I'd say Detroit's going to win by probably 10 points. I think it'll be like a 31-21. The Lions don't have the strongest defense now because of all the injuries, but it's going to be a tough go.
Okay. Ralph,
But it'll
what do
be
you think?
I think it's going to be Kansas City. I think they're going to win. Oh, yeah, Kansas City.
What about
Oh,
Washington?
I'm sorry about the Detroit game. Yeah, Detroit.
Okay. Pensman?
Detroit.
Me too. Okay. Rams at the Eagles. Pensman.
Rams. I like Stafford in that game.
Okay. Ralph.
Eagles at home.
George.
Boy, this is a tough one, Candy. It really is. I mean, I could see it going either way. Stafford, if he's on, man, he's going to be tough to beat. I'm gonna go with Pensman. I'm gonna say upset. Rams over the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
Bob Sirianni.
Ravens Bills. And we will start with Ralph.
I'm taking the Bills. I hate the Ravens.
George.
I got to go with the Ravens. I predicted a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl way back in early September, so I'm not going to turn my back. They haven't had the greatest of years, but I'm going to say Baltimore.
Pensman.
If Baltimore uses Derrick Henry, then I get the Baltimore Ravens. But I know how Buffalo is, so I picked the Baltimore Ravens just because I know how Buffalo is in the playoffs.
I understand. George, that is a mighty prediction. And they're saying single digit weather in Buffalo. And I would say that would matter for a warm weather team, but we're talking the Ravens Buffalo. They're both really from up north. They both really can play in the, I would think could play in the cold since they both play in outdoor stadiums. So
yeah,
Baltimore gets cold, but not that cold, but it
Right.
does get cold.
Right. Exactly.
Lamar will be fine.
Real quick, New Orleans is waiting for the Houston Texans game to be over with. They have asked permission to interview Bobby Slowick for their job. So,
thank you for the update.
Yes. Thank you.
Ralph's turning into be like mini ESPN over here.
yes, I am.
There we go. Okay, guys, it's time for my town. Mr. George, what's happening in your town?
Well, what's not happening? I mean, we are really excited, although I'm sad to report that both the Michigan Wolverines basketball team and the Detroit Pistons went down to defeat today. But what a January it's been for the teams in Motown. Just a terrific start to the new year for both the Red Wings and the Detroit Pistons. And again, Tom Izzo and the Spartans and Dusty May and the Wolverines have really lit up the fire under those two teams. I think that so overall things are going well. Red Wings made a great choice, Todd McClellan. I really think that he would have been the coach earlier than this. You got to remember he was here under a guy named Mike Babcock, who did win one Stanley Cup in Detroit before he shuffled off to the big money in Toronto. But Todd has done a great job with the team. They went down this evening, and I know Candy mentioned it at the outset, and they beat Florida handily, kind of in the 5-2 on the road. So there's a lot of excitement in Detroit, and of course the Lions have the number one excitement of all. So we'll see what happens Friday night, being able to host that game and then coming back, and if they win, they'll host the NFC Championship a week later. Maybe 8 days later. I think, yeah, it's on a Sunday, not a Saturday. But that's what's happening in my town. A lot of winning, a lot of smiles.
Okay, Pensman, what's happening in your town?
I'm gonna save you one, Ralph, just because we're close to each other. I'll save you one.
Go ahead.
Mike Sullivan needs to be fired for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Something's going on in Pittsburgh. I don't know what it is, but you're all smiles over there in Detroit. I think we're going to be riot over here in Pittsburgh. Something needs to change here in Pittsburgh with the coaches. I don't know. That's what's going on in my town. We're a bunch of losers right now.
Oh,
Something needs to happen here and change things quick.
yeah.
Well, I'll say that as well. But here's what I'm going to say: we have
Go ahead.
owners of teams who believe in mediocrity, because if they didn't believe in mediocrity and they want to win a Stanley Cup or a Super Bowl or a World Series, they would provide the necessary tools and they would provide the necessary coaches and they would do what's necessary for it to win. The idea of professional sports is to win the big dance, the Stanley Cup in hockey, the World Series in baseball, the Super Bowl in the NFL. Okay, that is where if you're not in it to win it, you shouldn't be in it. And right now, the Fenway Group, who owns the Penguins, must like mediocrity because they keep Mike Sullivan as their head coach. Art II keeps talking about Super Bowl, but Mike Tomlin's been here 18 years and he won one with Bill Cowher's players. Okay. And he hasn't won anything since 2016. And the fans also have accepted this mediocrity. The Pirates, on the other hand, I don't even want to talk about them because Bob Nutting ought to be ashamed of himself for letting Roddy Telez walk away and not get his bonus, and Michael A. Taylor after they busted their butt for the Pirates this year. And he cut them before they could get the $200,000 bonus. I never thought Bob Nutting could stoop that low, but he does. All right, for the Pirates. So Pensman is right. We have sad times in our professional teams. Once again, how the mighty have fallen.
My town. So Marquette beat DePaul in overtime the other night. So they are ranked 7th in the nation. The Wisconsin Badgers won the other night, giving Greg Gard his 200th win, which is pretty impressive considering how long he's been coaching and the pedigree that he comes from. But obviously, the one topic, and again, I encourage everybody to watch 7:30 Monday night. We're going to do a tribute to Bob Uecker. If you didn't know Bob Uecker, he called Milwaukee Brewer games for 54 years. He was in Major League 1 and Major League 2. His iconic call is, get up, get out of here, gone, a home run. Like he has his own home run call, as all the iconic
like Bob Prince, you
do.
can kiss it goodbye.
Yes. And of course he's got some good ones in Major League. He's almost been like a comedian as well. But I can honestly say I don't remember ever listening to anybody else on the radio call a Milwaukee Brewers game because he's been there for 54 years. So, and when I say he grew up in Milwaukee, he's well loved by the players. You can see when they won the National League championship, the other league, how he was in the locker room celebrating with all of the guys, he was Mr. Belvedere on TV. So he's worn many hats. This is really going to hit Milwaukee hard. And that's what I'm going to say. Most towns would only be as fortunate as Milwaukee to have had an iconic commentator on a team in a sport for as long as they did. It's it's not unheard of in the past, but I'm going to say it's probably going to be unheard of in the future. I don't think anybody will stay in one role like that for 50 years. Again, I don't think we'll see that anymore, which is sad. But Jay, I know he was the voice of the Milwaukee Brewers for 54 years. He is the only voice I have listened to on the radio as calling the games, and I can remember back in the day sitting on Easter Sunday in my grandparents' backyard listening to him call games. But I don't want to get too much into that. I want to, like I said, we're going to do a special episode of Fire Up Wisconsin Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, to give him the proper tribute. Me and Eric Katz are going to be on that. Eric lives in Milwaukee, so he'll have a Milwaukee perspective. I grew up a fan of Mr. Baseball, as we call him. So rest in peace. He did die. He did in 2023. He found out he had lung cancer, and so he died of single cell lung cancer.
Oh wow, jeez.
So yes, Eric is a Yankees guy, but he lives in Milwaukee right now. So yes, Eric is very sharp. So him and I are going to do the show 7:30 again Monday night. I hope everybody can be there and watch it. And we're going to go around the horn, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. I want to first say thank you to everybody that's been in the chat room. I appreciate all the great comments. They've all been related to what we've been talking about. So thank you to all of them. Ralph, why don't you start us out? How can people see you, follow you?
Absolutely. I have a website, www.rwmediaproductions.com. You can watch all my archive shows on there, including my radio shows and my podcasts. I'm also on YouTube. Please subscribe. I'm back down under 200 again, and I know what's going on, but that's fine. I could care less. I'll get them back. So what I wanted to say was please subscribe. You can catch all my archive shows on there, Ralph Williams, RW Media. And also, I'm on Twitter X. Please follow me on Twitter X. And I'm also on Facebook, Tumblr, and LinkedIn as well. And I have 2 radio shows on 1250 AM, 92.5 FM, The Answer in Pittsburgh, and they're both on Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., The Ralph Williams Show, and 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., the Sports Corner Radio Show with me, Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier, Claudia Rosano, and Luther Dupree. And we are breaking down the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Pittsburgh Steelers season for our show this Saturday. And also for my Ralph Williams Show, Tony Moreno, former Republican mayoral candidate for the city of Pittsburgh mayor, joins me every third Saturday of the month on the Ralph Williams Show. Other than that, that's how you can get a hold of me.
Okay. George, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I write for I write for the paper. I'm going to say newspaper, but it's not a newspaper. Online, South Florida Tribune. And then you can find me under the Motor City Tribune, where I contribute, as does Candy and Scott and so many others. And also at the end of my column, there it is. There's a link to purchase this book, which is Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And you talk about great sportscasters like Bob Uecker. We've had our share, obviously, been blessed in Michigan, too, with the likes of Ernie Harwell and George Kell, Al Kaline, and Frank Beckman, and the list goes on and on and on. Also, you can reach me at Yahoo at gicorn@yahoo.com, on Twitter, also known as X, at SandGSports99, and follow me on LinkedIn as well. And you can also follow me in any other format that you think I'm going to be around. I can't make the show on Monday, the normal 108 Stitches show, but I'm delighted, Candy, to hear that you and Eric are going to co-author, co-anchor the wonderful tribute to Mr. Uecker. I did want to mention 2 other people that come to mind, and I know there's been many other ones, even the creepy O.J. Simpson, but 2 guys that went into television, Alex Karras with a comedy show, and so did Merlin Olsen with a wholesome show. Remember that? Something about a family out there. I think it was
Little
produced
House on the Prairie.
Michael Landon, the great Michael Landon.
Little House on the Prairie, right.
And Merlin Olsen. So when you mentioned about Bob Uecker, And Bob Euchre and Johnny Carson had a great relationship. If you have not seen some of that stuff, I would suggest you guys listening and watching this show, go into YouTube and try to find some Johnny Carson interviews with Bob Euchre. Because, like Candy said, the man's phenomenal, not only as a comedian and actor, but of course, a great ambassador for baseball. And that'll be all I said. Thank you, Jay. Yeah, I did write a book. Thank you. Thank you. You're very observant.
Real quick, Candy, before I go, you can move on, if I would, please. I want to thank Justin, Jay, for the shout outs, and I'm going to shout you guys out as well, because we are simulcasted tonight on my YouTube channel and my Facebook page. So I wanted to shout you guys out and thank you all for being part of the program here as well. Thank you.
Well,
And,
Ralph,
also,
Tiger Stripes Media said he just subscribed to you. So
okay, good. Thank you, Tiger Stripes. Appreciate it.
and thank you, Justin.
Yes.
Thank you, J.I. Thank you. I know
And Jay as well. Yes.
Jay. Yep. And I know Patty was in the chat tonight. I know
Patty as well.
Joshua
Yes.
was in the chat tonight as well.
Joshua Dore, yeah, he was on early.
He was, but and like I said, I love it when they're commenting and they're asking questions related to what we're talking about. So thank you all, because that brings life. And we don't always have all the answers, or we might not always think of some of the questions that you guys have. So I love the interaction with you guys and you guys asking questions. Pensman, how can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube on Pensman Sports. I have 717 subscribers. I just did a video at 2 o'clock. I did talk about some Pittsburgh stuff, so you can go back, watch that. And then I'm on X too on Pensman Sports.
Okay, so I have got to shout out. My husband wrote a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. And actually, George Eichhorn here wrote the foreword on that book as well. It's a great read. Go out and get your copy today. It talks about how media has changed over the 45 plus years he's been in the business. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. We're working on the audiobook as well, so that's coming. You can find a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where Scott, my husband, writes. I rarely write, once in a blue moon. I take more pictures, though. And George writes. We have a bunch of other people that write. Hensman wrote his first article as well. Yes. He joined the ranks. So it's awesome. So go check out our website.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm not a writer. So,
Okay.
I would write too. I'm not a writer.
It's all right, Rob.
It's all good. It's all good. If you haven't heard, Scott and myself are headed to New Orleans for Super Bowl week. So yes, totally excited about that. So I wanted to shout that out. Jay has a book. He read it. He learned. He loved it. It's been shared, and
So did I.
actually has an audio copy.
Read it. Love it.
Awesome. Yes,
Awesome.
I can't wait to get more content for our website, for our YouTube channel during the Super Bowl week. I have never been, so I can't tell you what it's going to be like. So it's all going to be new for me. But back to, if you see the red subscribe button, that lower right-hand corner, click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family, anybody you think that would be interested. We also, if you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you just never know what we're going to be talking about. Stay tuned. But then, and again, this Monday night special episode, we're going to be talking about the iconic life of broadcaster from Milwaukee, Bob Euchre, as well as talented. I mean, he played the game. He called the game. He's an actor. He did. And he actually lived in my hometown. So I actually know people that trick-or-treated at his house and everything like that. So he was a great man. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody that was in the chat room. I want to thank my great panel here tonight. I would ask anybody that's out in the chat room, if you haven't subscribed to anybody's channel, please do so. And because they're giving us their time, I would ask that you give them the time as well. Yes, just follow the South Florida Tribune. Pensman, what is the article?
Mike Tomlin should be fired.
Oh.
I have some good stats in there, and I think that what I think is what I think. 18 years is good enough. A new voice needs to come in Pittsburgh. Detroit Red Wings did it. Pittsburgh Steelers can do it. They got rid of Andy Reid in Philly. They can do the same thing in Pittsburgh. So people might agree, but people might disagree. So that's why I wrote the article.
So with that being said, everybody go out there, enjoy football, enjoy your family. Life is too short. Do the things that make you happy and enjoy. And until next time, have a great one. See you on the flip side, everybody. Good night.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.